Need a quick and easy Christmas present to sew for a loved one? Well, I have a great idea for you, so stick around if you want to see what it is. We're going to start off with some fat quarters. I have some from the Sunnyside collection. I will leave a link to those in the description box below if you're interested in them. And I'm going to be using these to make some reversible hot pads. So I have all of my fat quarters that I'm going to be using for them. I'm going to be making 3 today. I have them all stacked together, so I have 6 in total. I'm going to cut them all at the same time. That way it's just faster for me. But if you don't feel comfortable cutting through so many layers of fabric, just do what's comfortable for you. I'm cutting mine at 13 by 17, but you can cut yours whatever size you want, and I will be trimming them down later so they'll be a bit smaller. Then I'm going to grab 2 pieces of batting and lay one piece on top, and then I'm just going to cut it. Trim my batting to be the exact same size. You could leave it bigger, but just the way that I'm doing it, I wouldn't be able to line up my other side properly. So that's just how I've been doing it. Then I'm going to take my second piece that's going to be for the other side of this hot pad, and I'm just going to line everything up nice and neat. And then I'm just going to do some straight line quilting on here, cross hatching, and some straight line quilting on some of the other ones. But you can do whichever pattern you want. And once again, I'm just going to my good old masking tape here, and I'm just sewing down either side of my masking tape and then moving it over, and then that way I will have all even lines. And then once I have done all of my quilting, and this one I just did a cross hatch, I'm going to now trim it up because the fabric does shift a little bit, so your batting is sticking out a bit. I ended up trimming mine down to 12.5 by 16.5, which is still a really good size if you ask me. But you can make these any size you want. You could make them larger, you could make them smaller. That's entirely up to you. Once I have it trimmed up, we are ready for our binding, and I cut my binding strips at 2.5 inches by width of fabric, which is a fat quarter, so 22 inches. I have 2 pieces of my binding strips here, both of them pretty sides up, stacked together nice and neat, and then I'm going to take my ruler and that diagonal line, I'm just going to lay it along the bottom, making sure that my corner is sticking out a quarter of an inch. And then that way when I go like this, and then I put them right sides together, it's going to be a perfect cut, and I can just sew with a 1/4 inch seam, and it's going to be a nice diagonal join there. This is just how I like to do my binding. And then I'm going to pin it in place, and then I'm just going to move on to the next spot and do the exact same thing there as well. And if I need to, I will cut off my selvages. But then again, just stacking them up, both of them right sides facing up, and then lining up my ruler and just using my rotary cutter to cut that line there so it's a perfect cut every time. And I always like to start my binding on one of my longer sides and then making sure that I leave myself a good tail there, because you want to have a lot of extra room there when you are sewing that last joint together, because it can get a little bit difficult. I am sewing through a lot of layers here, so I did just raise my presser foot. I could have put on my walking foot, but I figured whatever. I would just raise my presser foot, and it comes in so handy if your machine is able to do that. My old one, I couldn't do that, but with my new Juki, I can, and I absolutely love this machine. So glad I bought it. I do have a video that's more in depth on how to do binding, and I will leave that in the description box down below if you are interested in watching that. I go over a little bit more in detail how I do my binding. Not everyone does it the way I do it, but this method works for me, and I'm just going to do it this way. There are different ways to do this join. I should maybe make a video on the different methods of doing this, but this is the one that I usually do, and I go over that in the video that I have. So like I said, it will be linked in the description box below if you are interested in watching that. And I'm always double checking, making sure that everything's lined up correctly before I make any cuts here, because I have gotten my binding in a twist before, and then I made the cut, and then whoops, I had to go make some more binding. But so I just double check, and then I'm just going to use my scissors here to cut that last little part and finger press this open. But let me know if you would be interested in having a video done where I show different ways to do that join there when you get to the ends of your binding. Yeah, so let me know in the comments if you would be interested in a video like that. Once I have all the bindings sewn on, I'm just going to fold it all over, and we're going to turn it over to the back side. I always hand sew my binding down. It's just the method that I prefer, and I find hand sewing very relaxing. But you could sew along that ditch there, making sure that you catch the binding on the back side and just use your sewing machine. It would go a lot faster, but I prefer hand sewing. So I have 3 that here that I've been working on. 2 of them I just need to finish sewing the binding on the back side, but one is completely done. On this one, I just did straight lines up and down. I just used my masking tape and sewed on either side and then moved it over 3 inches. And I did the same thing with this one. Just on this one, I did it on the diagonal, so it was a little bit different. So you have 2 lines that are a little bit closer together, and then you have the next 2 lines that, or the next line that's a little bit further away and then closer together again, just to give it a little bit of a different design. And this one, I just did the exact width of my masking tape, but just by doing a different quilting technique, it'll look different. You could even practice free motion quilting on these. I didn't because these are for gifts. But this is what it looks like with a 13 by 9 baking dish on there and then two smaller dishes. So I find that these are perfect. I gave these to my daughter's Sunday school teachers last year as gifts and they absolutely loved them. So what I did with them is I just picked one side and I made that my outer layer and then I rolled them up and then I just tied it in place with some Christmas ribbon and I made myself little tags. I just printed them up on my computer that say large hot pad and that they're perfect for 13 by 9 casserole dishes just because maybe not everybody knows what these are. But I just tied a little knot in there and slipped on my tag and then tied that in place and then, give it a little curl. Sorry if you can hear my daughter in the background. She thinks she doesn't need a nap today, but we'll see who wins. But no, I actually will buy those gift bags that you would normally buy for a bottle of wine. They are perfect for these. I love using these. I will put them in there with some tissue paper and gift them like that. Or if the person that you're giving this to likes wine, you could even wrap this around a bottle of wine and gift it like that. But I hope you enjoyed this video and you will give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for stopping by, and until next time.